Pope Leo XIV paused for 6 seconds while reading the Third Secret, then reveals the shocking truth that reopens Orthodox unity wounds. Cardinal Burke speaks out. November 27, 2025. Inside the Vatican's private papal study, Pope Leo XIV held an 81-year-old letter in his trembling hands. The envelope had been sealed since 1944, hidden in a secret compartment in the Vatican archives. It was written by Sister Lucia dos Santos, the nun who witnessed the Virgin Mary at Fatima. But this was not the third secret the world knew. This was the part she could never reveal. The part she was told to keep hidden until the right pope came along. As Leo XIV's eyes moved across the faded ink, his face went pale. The letter described him perfectly. An American-born pope, from the Augustinian order, the first of his kind, and then he read the prophecy that made him freeze for 6 full seconds. A cardinal whose name means fortress will rise to oppose you. The truth you reveal will reopen the wound between Catholic and Orthodox that has bled for 1,000 years. Cardinal Raymond Burke. His name literally means fortress. What Cardinal Burke did next, nobody saw coming. If you want to see how this 1,000-year battle ends, kindly drop a comment where you are watching from and subscribe to Pope Leo XIV Faithful Chronicles now, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Now let's dive in. To understand how we got here, we need to rewind to that morning. Before the Pope read the letter, before the prophecy, before everything changed, Monsignor Giuseppe Torretti had worked in the Vatican's Apostolic Archives for 23 years. He was 62 years old, methodical, careful, and known for never breaking protocol. For 2 decades, he had spent his days cataloging ancient documents, preserving manuscripts, and maintaining the Church's most sensitive records. He moved through the archives like a monk through prayer, slowly, reverently, with absolute precision. November 27th started as a routine day. A pipe had burst overnight in the East Wing, causing minor water damage. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to force Torretti and his team to relocate several crates of documents from the pontificate of Pope Pius XI, dating back to the 1920s and 1930s. As they carefully moved the boxes to a temporary storage area, Torretti noticed something strange about one particular wooden crate. The proportions were off. The bottom didn't sit right. For a man who had handled thousands of historical containers, this felt wrong. Torretti knelt down and ran his fingers along the edges of the crate's base. He pressed gently on the corner. It gave way with a soft crack. A false bottom, and beneath it, a hidden compartment that had been sealed for over 80 years. Inside was a single envelope. It was sealed with red wax, stamped with the papal seal of 1944. The handwriting on the front was unmistakable to anyone who studied Fatima. The delicate, flowing script of Sister Lucia dos Santos, the Portuguese nun who had witnessed the apparitions of the Virgin Mary in 1917. But it was the small note attached to the envelope that made Torretti's hands begin to shake. As palavras que não pude escrever na primeira carta sobre o Tercer Secreto. The words I could not write in the first letter about the Third Secret. Torretti felt his heart pounding in his chest. The Third Secret of Fatima was one of the most controversial mysteries in modern Catholic history. The Vatican had officially revealed it in the year 2000. A vision of a bishop dressed in white being attacked and killed. But for decades, rumors had swirled that the full truth had never been disclosed. That Sister Lucia had held something back. That there was more. And now in his hands was proof. Torretti knew he could not speak to anyone about this. Not his colleagues. Not his superiors. Only one person in the entire Vatican had the authority to open this envelope. He sealed off the area immediately, placed the envelope in a protective case, and made his way through the marble corridors toward the Pope's private quarters. His hands were still shaking when he knocked on the door. Pope Leo XIV received Monsignor Torretti in his private study within minutes. The room was simple: a wooden crucifix on the wall, a small bookshelf filled with theological texts, and an image of Our Lady of Good Counsel. No luxury, no ostentation, just the essentials for a man of prayer. Torretti handed over the sealed envelope with trembling hands. "Santo Padre," he whispered. "This was hidden in the archives since 1944. The seal is intact. The handwriting is Sister Lucia's. And the note says these are the words she could not write in her first letter about the Third Secret." The Pope looked at the envelope for a long moment. Then, with careful fingers, he broke the ancient wax seal. The parchment inside was yellowed with age, but the ink, a deep blue, was still vivid and clear. At the top of the page was a date: January 3rd, 1944. Below it, words that made both men hold their breath. "I write in obedience to Our Lady, who has ordered me to reveal the words I could not include in my first letter about the Third Secret, for the world was not prepared. But she told me a time would come when an Augustinian Pope from America would reveal the full truth." Pope Leo XIV's eyes locked on those words. An Augustinian Pope. From America. He was Augustinian. He was from Chicago. He was the first American-born Pope in the entire history of the Catholic Church. Sister Lucia had written this 81 years ago, before he was even born, and it described him with impossible precision. His hands tightened on the parchment as he continued reading. "Our Lady showed me a vision beyond the bishop dressed in white. I saw two lungs of the church, one in the west, one in the east, struggling to breathe together. For 1,000 years they have been separated. The Catholic lung and the Orthodox lung. Both are part of the same body, but they do not work as one. They are wounded. They are weakened. And humanity suffers because the church cannot breathe fully." The Pope's throat tightened. The Great Schism of 1054 had split Christianity into Catholic and Orthodox. For nearly 1,000 years, the two largest branches of the Christian faith had been divided over theology, authority, and tradition. Attempts at reunion had been made, most notably in 1965 when Pope Paul VI and Patriarch Athenagoras lifted their mutual excommunications. But full unity, full communion, it had never happened. The letter continued. "Our Lady revealed to me that in the time of the American Shepherd, a door would open. The Orthodox and Catholic churches would be given one final chance at unity. But this unity would come at a terrible cost. It would require the revelation of a truth that both sides have hidden. A truth about me, about my role in salvation, about my title, about my place in the divine plan." Pope Leo XIV felt a chill run down his spine. He knew exactly what this meant. For years, some Catholics had pushed for the Church to officially declare Mary as Co-Redemptrix, a title meaning that Mary cooperated uniquely with Jesus in the redemption of humanity. It was a theological position rooted in centuries of Catholic devotion. But it was also deeply controversial. Many theologians opposed it. And the Orthodox Church? They rejected it completely. To them, calling Mary Co-Redemptrix was dangerously close to making her equal to Christ. It was the nuclear issue, the one topic that could either bring the two churches together or guarantee their permanent separation. The letter's next words sent ice through the Pope's veins. "This truth will reopen ancient wounds. Many will reject it. Some will call it heresy, and a cardinal whose name means fortress will rise to oppose the Pope who dares to speak it. He will believe he is defending the faith. But Our Lady says this: only through the wound can healing come. Only through the breaking can unity be born. Pope Leo XIV stopped reading. His eyes stared at the page, unblinking. A cardinal whose name means fortress. Cardinal Raymond Burke. In Old English, Burke comes from bay, meaning fortress or stronghold. It was him. The prophecy was describing Cardinal Raymond Burke, one of the most powerful and outspoken voices in the Catholic Church, a man known for defending traditional doctrine without compromise, a man who had publicly criticized previous popes when he believed they had strayed. And according to Sister Lucia's hidden prophecy, he was destined to oppose what Pope Leo XIV was about to do. 6 seconds passed in total silence. The Pope's mind raced. The weight of what he held in his hands was almost unbearable. This was not just a letter. It was a roadmap, a prophecy, a warning, and a mission. Monsignor Toretti barely dared to breathe. Santo Padre, what does it say? Pope Leo XIV looked up, his face pale but resolute. It says that everything is about to change. To understand why this letter is so dangerous, you need to know about the wound that has bled for 1,000 years. In the year 1054, Christianity split in two. It was called the Great Schism, and it tore the Church apart in a way that has never been fully healed. For the first 1,000 years after Christ, the Church was one. East and West, Greek and Latin, Constantinople and Rome. They shared the same faith, the same sacraments, the same apostolic succession. But over centuries, differences began to grow. Cultural differences, linguistic differences, political differences, and most dangerously, theological differences. The breaking point came on July 16, 1054. Cardinal Humbert, representing Pope Leo IX, walked into the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople and placed a document on the altar excommunicating the Patriarch of Constantinople. The Patriarch responded by excommunicating the Pope. And just like that, Christianity fractured into Catholic in the West and Orthodox in the East. For nearly 1,000 years, they have remained divided. There have been moments of hope. In 1965, Pope Paul VI and Patriarch Athenagoras lifted the mutual excommunications in a historic gesture of reconciliation. There have been dialogues, meetings, prayers together. But full unity, full communion where Catholics and Orthodox can share the Eucharist, recognize each other's priesthood, and function as one church? It has never happened. The obstacles are deep. Catholics believe the Pope in Rome has supreme authority over the entire Church. Orthodox Christians reject this, believing authority should be shared among patriarchs and bishops. There are disputes over the exact wording of the Nicene Creed, specifically the Filioque clause, a single Latin word that has caused centuries of controversy. And there are differences in how the two traditions understand everything from the nature of grace to the use of leavened versus unleavened bread in communion. But the most explosive issue, the one that could either unite them or destroy any hope of unity forever, is Mary. Catholics and Orthodox both honor the Virgin Mary deeply. Both call her Theotokos, the Mother of God. Both believe in her perpetual virginity and her assumption into heaven. But over the past 2 centuries, Catholic theology has increasingly elevated Mary's role in salvation history. Popes have declared doctrines about her immaculate conception and her assumption. Catholic devotion has grown to the point where some theologians and bishops now advocate for an official declaration of Mary as Co-Redemptrix. Co-Redemptrix means that Mary cooperated uniquely and inseparably with Jesus in the work of redemption, that she suffered with him at the cross, that her yes to God at the Annunciation was essential to salvation, that she is not just the Mother of God, but in some sense a partner in the salvation of humanity. To many Catholics, this title simply puts into words what they have always believed. It honors Mary. It reflects centuries of theological reflection, and it recognizes her unique role in God's plan. But to the Orthodox Church, it is a line they will not cross. Orthodox theology is extremely cautious about language that could even seem to place Mary on the same level as Christ. They honor her above all saints. They call her ever virgin, Theotokos, all holy. But the idea of calling her Co-Redemptrix, giving her a title that uses the word Redemptrix, which echoes Redeemer, is seen as dangerously close to making her equal to Jesus. To them, Christ alone is the Redeemer. Mary cooperated, yes. She was essential, yes. But she did not redeem. Only God redeems. This is not a small disagreement. This is not about liturgy or church structure. This is about the core of salvation itself. And it is the one issue that has the power to either bring the two churches together, or guarantee they will never reunite. And now, Sister Lucia's hidden prophecy reveals that this exact issue is at the center of God's plan for unity. The letter says that unity will require the revelation of a truth about Mary that both sides have hidden. A truth that will reopen ancient wounds. A truth that will be rejected by many as heresy. But a truth that, according to the Virgin Mary herself, is the only path to healing. Pope Leo XIV understands what this means. If he moves forward with this revelation, if he addresses the issue of Mary's role in a way that challenges both Catholic and Orthodox positions, he will face opposition from all sides. Traditional Catholics will accuse him of watering down doctrine. Orthodox Christians will accuse him of theological overreach. And Cardinal Burke, the man whose name means fortress, will rise to defend what he believes is the unchangeable truth of the faith. But the prophecy also says this: only through the wound can healing come. Only through the breaking can unity be born. Pope Leo XIV closed the letter and looked at Monsignor Terretti. This is not just about theology, he said quietly. This is about whether the Church will remain divided for another 1,000 years, or whether we will finally become one body, breathing with two lungs as God intended. Terretti nodded slowly. What will you do, Santo Padre? The Pope's jaw tightened. I will obey, even if it costs me everything. This is just the beginning of the most explosive moment in church history. Hit that subscribe button on Pope Leo XIV Faithful Chronicles because you do not want to miss what Cardinal Burke says next. News of the discovery spread through the Vatican like wildfire. Pope Leo XIV had intended to keep the letter confidential while he prayed and consulted with trusted advisors. But in an institution as old and complex as the Vatican, secrets have a way of leaking. By that afternoon, whispers were circulating through the corridors of power. A hidden letter from Sister Lucia, a prophecy about the American Pope, something about Mary and the Orthodox Church. And within hours, those whispers reached Cardinal Raymond Burke. Burke was 73 years old, a former Archbishop of St. Louis, and one of the most influential voices in the Catholic Church. He was known for three things: his unwavering commitment to traditional Catholic doctrine, his willingness to publicly challenge church leaders when he believed they were wrong, and his absolute refusal to compromise on matters of faith. He had spent decades defending what he called the deposit of faith, the unchangeable truths handed down from the apostles. He had criticized previous popes when he felt they were too lenient on divorce, too open to Protestant theology, or too willing to accommodate modern culture. And he had built a massive following among conservative Catholics who saw him as one of the last defenders of authentic Catholicism in a church that seemed to be drifting. When Burke heard about the letter and what it allegedly contained, that Pope Leo XIV was considering a theological reinterpretation regarding Mary's role in order to pursue unity with the Orthodox Church, he did not wait. He did not request a private meeting with the Pope. He did not seek clarification. He went public. That same evening, Cardinal Burke released a statement through his official communication channels. It was direct, forceful, and left no room for misinterpretation. If reports are accurate that His Holiness is considering a theological compromise with the Orthodox Church regarding the Blessed Mother's role in salvation, I must speak plainly and without hesitation. This would constitute a betrayal of Catholic tradition. The title Co-Redemptrix is not merely a matter of devotional preference or theological opinion. It reflects centuries of doctrinal development rooted in Scripture, tradition, and the lived faith of countless saints and martyrs. To abandon or obscure this truth for the sake of a false unity would be to abandon the faith itself. I call upon all faithful Catholics to resist any attempt to dilute the unique and irreplaceable role of the Blessed Virgin Mary in the economy of salvation. Unity is a noble goal, but not at the cost of truth. The statement detonated like a bomb. Within minutes, it was shared thousands of times on social media. Catholic news outlets picked it up immediately. Conservative Catholic groups rallied behind Burke, praising him for his courage. Progressive Catholics condemned him for undermining the Pope. And the secular media, always eager for a Vatican controversy, framed it as a brewing civil war within the Church. Cardinal Burke had just publicly challenged the Pope, and he had done it in a way that made reconciliation almost impossible. The Church fractured overnight. Conservative Catholic organizations issued statements within hours, standing firmly behind Cardinal Burke. The Society of St. Pius X, traditional Latin Mass communities, and prominent conservative bishops from around the world echoed his warning. They accused Pope Leo XIV of preparing to abandon core Catholic doctrines in pursuit of what they called false unity. One bishop from the United States wrote, "We cannot sacrifice truth on the altar of diplomacy. The Orthodox left us in 1054. If they want to return, they must accept Catholic teaching as it has been handed down, not demand that we change it to suit their theology." Catholic websites and YouTube channels exploded with commentary. Traditionalist influencers warned that the Pope was leading the Church into apostasy. Some even suggested that if Pope Leo XIV moved forward with this plan, he would be acting outside his legitimate authority. The word schism began appearing in articles and videos. Not the schism of 1054, a new one happening right now in 2025. Online petitions circulated demanding that the Pope clarify his position. Prayer vigils were organized outside cathedrals, asking God to protect the faith from compromise. Conservative Catholics who had already felt uneasy about the direction of the modern Church now saw this as the final line in the sand. But on the other side, progressive Catholics came to the Pope's defense with equal passion. Theologians who had spent careers working on Catholic-Orthodox dialogue accused Burke of sabotaging 1,000 years of ecumenical progress. They pointed out that the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s had explicitly called for Christian unity as a central mission of the Church. They argued that the title Co-Redemptrix had never been officially defined as dogma, meaning it was still open to theological discussion and reinterpretation. One prominent theologian wrote, "Cardinal Burke speaks of defending tradition, but he forgets that the Church's greatest tradition is unity. Jesus prayed that they may all be one. For 1,000 years we have been divided. If Pope Leo XIV can heal that wound, even if it requires us to reconsider how we express certain doctrines, then he is doing exactly what a pope should do." Catholic universities issued statements supporting the Pope's right to pursue dialogue. Progressive bishops from Europe and Latin America publicly pledged their loyalty to Pope Leo XIV. Social media filled with Catholics defending the Pope, accusing Burke of clinging to rigid interpretations that prevented the Church from fulfilling Christ's command for unity. The phrase "unity is a core doctrine" became a rallying cry. If Burke and his followers believed doctrinal purity was non-negotiable, progressives believed that Christian unity was just as non-negotiable, and that the Pope had the authority to discern how to balance both. The battle lines were drawn, and neither side was willing to back down. But perhaps the most telling response came from the Orthodox Church itself. The Ecumenical Patriarchate of Constantinople, the symbolic head of Eastern Orthodox Christianity, issued a brief and carefully worded statement. "We have received reports of internal discussions within the Roman Catholic Church regarding theological matters related to the Blessed Theotokos and the possibility of renewed dialogue toward Christian unity. While we remain committed to the goal of reconciliation between our two communions, we will not be drawn into internal Catholic conflicts. We are watching these developments closely and praying for wisdom and clarity for all involved." It was diplomatic, neutral, but the message was clear. The Orthodox Church was not going to take sides in a Catholic civil war. They would wait. They would watch. And they would see whether Pope Leo XIV could actually deliver on the promise of unity, or whether the Catholic Church would tear itself apart before that unity ever became possible. The wound Sister Lucia had warned about was reopening, and it was deeper than anyone had imagined. Pope Leo XIV sat alone in his private chapel, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. In front of him lay two paths. Both led through fire. Both would cost him dearly. And no matter which one he chose, people he loved and respected would believe he had betrayed them. Path 1. Pursue unity with the Orthodox Church. This was the path Sister Lucia's prophecy seemed to point toward. The path where the Church finally heals the 1,000-year wound of division. Where Catholic and Orthodox come together as one body, breathing with two lungs as St. John Paul II had once described it. Where millions of Christians separated by history, politics, and theology are finally reunited in full communion. But this path would require something painful. It would require reinterpreting, or at least recontextualizing, Catholic teaching about Mary's role in salvation. It would mean acknowledging that the title Co-Redemptrix, while meaningful to many Catholics, creates an insurmountable barrier for Orthodox Christians who hear it as diminishing Christ's unique role as Redeemer. It would mean telling traditional Catholics that some theological expressions, even deeply cherished ones, might need to be softened or set aside for the sake of unity. It would mean accepting that doctrinal development is not a straight line but sometimes requires stepping back to move forward together. And it would mean facing the wrath of Cardinal Burke and everyone who stood with him. They would call him a heretic. They would accuse him of selling out the faith. Some would refuse to accept his authority. There could be a schism, not between Catholic and Orthodox, but within the Catholic Church itself. Pope Leo XIV knew this. He knew that if he chose this path, he might go down in history as the Pope who divided the Church he was trying to unite. But he also knew what Sister Lucia had written. Only through the wound can healing come. Only through the breaking can unity be born. Path 2. hold firm to tradition. This was the path Cardinal Burke was demanding. The path where Catholic doctrine remains unchanged, undiluted, uncompromised. Where the theological developments of the past centuries are defended as irreversible truths. Where the Church says to the Orthodox, "We welcome you back, but only if you accept our teaching as it stands." This path would satisfy traditional Catholics. It would preserve doctrinal integrity. It would avoid the accusation of compromise. Pope Leo XIV would be praised by conservatives as a strong defender of the faith. But it would also guarantee one thing: the Catholic and Orthodox churches would remain divided forever. Because the Orthodox Church had made it clear time and time again that they would never accept language that elevated Mary to a status they believed belonged to Christ alone. If the Catholic Church insisted on this theological trajectory, there would be no reunion. Not in 10 years. Not in 100. Not ever. The 1,000-year wound would become permanent. And Pope Leo XIV would have to live with the knowledge that he had been given a chance, a prophetic heaven-sent chance, to heal that wound, and he had chosen not to take it. He sat in the silence of the chapel, staring at the crucifix on the wall. Jesus, broken and bleeding, the ultimate image of how suffering leads to salvation, how wounds become the place of healing. Sister Lucia's prophecy had said something that haunted him. Both outcomes lead to crisis, but only one fulfills heaven's plan. What did that mean? Did it mean that both paths involved suffering, but only one led to resurrection? That both would break something, but only one would break the right thing? Or did it mean that no matter what he chose, the Church was heading into a crisis that had been building for centuries, and his only job was to trust that God would bring something new out of the destruction? Pope Leo XIV did not have the luxury of waiting for perfect clarity. The world was watching. Cardinal Burke had drawn his line. The Orthodox Church was waiting. And Catholics everywhere were looking to him for leadership. He knelt before the crucifix and prayed the only prayer he knew how to pray in that moment. "Lord, I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. I don't know if I'm wise enough. But you chose me, an American, an Augustinian, a man who spent his life among the poor and broken. You didn't choose a diplomat or a theologian or a politician. You chose me. So I'm going to trust that you knew what you were doing. Show me the way, and give me the courage to walk it, no matter the cost." When he opened his eyes, he knew what he had to do. He would move forward with the plan for unity. He would reach out to the Orthodox Church. He would address the question of Mary's role with honesty, humility, and a willingness to listen. And he would trust that if this truly was heaven's plan, God would provide the grace to see it through. Even if it meant losing everything. Even if Cardinal Burke and half the Church turned against him. Even if history remembered him as the Pope who caused a schism. Because Sister Lucia had been right about one thing: only through the wound can healing come. And Pope Leo XIV was ready to bear that wound. This story isn't just about popes and cardinals. It isn't just about ancient prophecies and 1,000-year-old wounds. This is about something every single one of us faces at some point in our lives. What do you do when unity requires compromise, but compromise feels like betrayal? Think about it. Maybe you've been there. You have a family member you haven't spoken to in years because of a disagreement that hardened into a wall. You know reconciliation would require one of you to soften your position, to admit you might have been partly wrong, to let go of being right. But doing that feels like betraying yourself. Like admitting that all those years of holding your ground were wasted. Or maybe it's at work. Two people you respect have completely opposite visions of what's right. One says the company needs to innovate and take risks. The other says the company needs to protect its core values and stay true to what made it successful. Both are right. Both are wrong. And you're stuck in the middle, knowing that choosing one side will alienate the other. Or maybe it's in your faith community. Maybe you've watched people you love split over worship styles, theological interpretations, or how to respond to cultural changes. One group says, we have to stay true to tradition or we'll lose our identity. The other says, we have to adapt or we'll become irrelevant. And both sides genuinely believe they're defending what matters most. Pope Leo XIV is facing the ultimate version of this dilemma. He has to choose between two goods that seem impossible to hold together: unity with the Orthodox Church, healing a wound that has bled for a millennium, or doctrinal integrity that preserves what Catholics have believed and taught for centuries. And here's the hardest part. There's no safe choice. No option where everyone walks away happy. No path that avoids pain. If he pursues unity, he risks dividing his own church. If he holds firm to tradition, he guarantees permanent separation from the Orthodox. Either way, something breaks. But maybe that's the point. Maybe Sister Lucia's prophecy, only through the wound can healing come, isn't just about the church. Maybe it's about life. Maybe real healing never happens without something breaking first. Maybe unity never comes without someone being willing to bear the wound of misunderstanding, criticism, and loss. Pope Leo XIV looked at the crucifix and saw the ultimate example. Jesus, broken and bleeding, becoming the source of salvation precisely through his wounds. The question isn't whether choosing the right path will hurt. The question is, which pain leads to resurrection? And that's the question we all have to answer when we're caught between two impossible choices. So where does that leave us? Where does the Church stand right now, in this moment of crisis and possibility? Pope Leo XIV has made his decision. 3 days after reading Sister Lucia's hidden letter, he issued an official announcement. He is calling a special synod, a formal gathering of bishops from around the world, to discuss the prophecy and its implications for Catholic-Orthodox unity. The synod is scheduled to convene in Rome in early 2026. Bishops from every continent have been invited. Theologians specializing in Mariology, ecclesiology, and ecumenical dialogue will be present. And most importantly, the Orthodox patriarchs, the leaders of the various Orthodox churches, have been formally invited to attend as observers and participants. This is unprecedented. Never in modern history has a pope convened a synod specifically to address the possibility of reinterpreting a major theological position for the sake of unity with the Orthodox Church. Some are calling it the most important church gathering since the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s. Others are calling it the most dangerous. The announcement sent shockwaves through both churches. Cardinal Raymond Burke responded within hours. In a public letter, he wrote, "I will attend this synod, and I will speak without fear of consequences. If the Holy Father believes he can compromise the faith handed down from the apostles, he will find that there are still those willing to defend it, even at great personal cost. The Blessed Virgin Mary deserves better than to have her role diminished for political convenience." Burke's statement made one thing clear: he is not backing down. He is preparing for a confrontation. And he has the support of a significant portion of the Church behind him. Traditional bishops, conservative cardinals, and millions of lay Catholics are watching to see if he will be the man who stands up to a pope they believe is going too far. But the Orthodox Church? Their response has been more cautious. The ecumenical patriarch of Constantinople acknowledged the invitation and said the Orthodox Church would prayerfully consider whether to send representatives. But he also warned, We cannot participate in a process that asks us to validate theological positions we do not hold. If this synod is truly about unity, it must be a dialogue between equals, not an invitation to accept Catholic doctrines we have rejected for centuries. Other Orthodox patriarchs have been even more skeptical. The Russian Orthodox Church, still dealing with its own tensions with Rome over political and ecclesiastical issues, issued a statement saying they would not attend unless there was clear evidence of genuine willingness to address the theological issues that have divided us since 1054. So the question remains, will the Orthodox Church even show up? And if they do, will they find a Catholic Church willing to truly listen, or a Catholic Church tearing itself apart in front of them? Meanwhile, the letter itself, the 81-year-old prophecy written by Sister Lucia dos Santos, sits in a climate-controlled vault deep within the Vatican archives. Only a handful of people have been allowed to read it in full, but its words have already escaped into the world, whispered in hallways, quoted in articles, debated in theology classrooms. An Augustinian Pope from America, and a Cardinal whose name means fortress will rise to oppose him. The prophecy has come true. Pope Leo XIV is Augustinian. He is American. And Cardinal Burke, whose name literally means fortress, has risen to oppose him. But the prophecy also said something else. Something neither side wants to talk about. Both outcomes lead to crisis, but only one fulfills heaven's plan. What does that mean? Does it mean Pope Leo XIV is right and Burke is wrong? Or does it mean that even if the Pope's path leads to schism and suffering, it's still the path God has chosen? No one knows. Not yet. So here we are, standing at the edge of history, watching something unfold in real time that will shape Christianity for the next 1,000 years. Will Pope Leo XIV back down? Some people close to the Vatican say he's already made up his mind, that once he read Sister Lucia's prophecy and saw his own life described with impossible precision, an Augustinian Pope from America, he understood this was his calling, that he believes God has been preparing him for this exact moment since the day he was born in Chicago 70 years ago. They say he's not going to back down. Not for Cardinal Burke. Not for the traditionalists. Not even if half the church turns against him. Because he believes that Sister Lucia was right. Only through the wound can healing come. Only through the breaking can unity be born. But others aren't so sure. They point out that Pope Leo XIV is a man of deep humility and caution, that he spent years serving the poor in Peru, listening more than he spoke, discerning carefully before acting. They say he won't rush into a decision that could split the church, that he'll take his time at the synod, listen to all sides and pray for clarity. Maybe he will find a third way. A path that neither Burke nor the progressives have considered. A way to honor both unity and tradition without betraying either. Or maybe he'll realize the cost is too high and step back from the brink. We don't know. Not yet. Will Cardinal Burke lead a revolt? This is the question that keeps Vatican officials awake at night. Burke is not just any cardinal. He has influence. He has followers. He has built a network of traditionalist bishops, priests, and laypeople who see him as the last line of defense against what they believe is the modernization and corruption of the Catholic faith. If Pope Leo XIV moves forward with a theological reinterpretation regarding Mary for the sake of unity with the Orthodox, Burke has the power to call it illegitimate. He could refuse to accept the decision. He could rally other bishops to do the same. He could create a parallel structure, a traditionalist Catholic Church that rejects the Pope's authority on this issue. That's not speculation. It's happened before. In the 1980s, Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre refused to accept the reforms of the Second Vatican Council and ordained bishops without papal approval, creating a breakaway movement that still exists today. Burke could do the same. And if he does, it won't be a small splinter group. It could be millions of Catholics, entire dioceses. It could be a schism that makes the one in 1054 look small by comparison. But maybe he won't. Maybe Burke, for all his strong words, will ultimately submit to the Pope's authority. Maybe he'll make his objections known, speak his mind at the synod, and then, even if he disagrees, accept the decision because he believes in the unity of the Church under the Pope. That's the hope. But no one knows if that hope is realistic. Will the Orthodox seize this moment or reject it? The Orthodox Church has been burned before. In 1439, there was an attempt at reunion called the Council of Florence. Orthodox bishops signed an agreement with Rome, promising unity. But when they returned home, their people rejected it. The agreement collapsed, and the wounds deepened. The Orthodox Church remembers that. They remember being pressured to compromise. They remember being told that Rome's way was the only way, and they're not eager to repeat that experience. So even if Pope Leo XIV offers a genuine path forward, even if he shows real willingness to reinterpret Catholic teaching for the sake of unity, the Orthodox might still say no, because trust has been broken for 1,000 years, and trust isn't rebuilt with one synod, one letter, or one prophecy. But then again, maybe this time is different. Maybe Sister Lucia's prophecy is the sign the Orthodox have been waiting for. Maybe the fact that it comes from Fatima, a Marian apparition, honoring the woman both churches revere, will give it weight. Maybe the fact that it predicts an American pope, someone outside the old European power structures, will make them believe this is a new chapter. Or maybe they'll see it as just another Catholic attempt to control the narrative. Another way for Rome to claim divine authority over a reunion that should be built on equality. We don't know. And we won't know until the synod happens. But here's what we do know. Those 6 seconds of silence, when Pope Leo XIV paused while reading Sister Lucia's letter, set something in motion that cannot be stopped. The prophecy is out. The battle lines are drawn. The synod is scheduled. And the whole Christian world is watching. What happens next will determine whether the Church breathes with 2 lungs again, or whether the wound that opened in 1054 becomes permanent, deepened by yet another attempt at healing that went wrong. Pope Leo XIV believes God has called him to this moment. Cardinal Burke believes God has called him to resist. And the Orthodox Church is waiting to see if either of them is right. History is happening right now, and none of us know how it ends. This story is far from over. Pope Leo XIV's next move could heal Christianity or tear it apart forever. Subscribe to Pope Leo XIV Faithful Chronicles right now so you don't miss a single update. And if you made it this far without subscribing, comment below and explain yourself, because I need to understand how you have this much self-control. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless.